Welcome to Stanislaus Football Weekly, and now for your hosts, Joe Cortez and Brian VanderBeek.
Hi, welcome to Stanislaus Football Weekly. I'm Joe, this is Brian, and this is our 83rd season of SFW, right? 83rd?
83
Yeah,
at least.
Hey, we've got week 0 in the books. We're steamrolling toward week 1, and you were at Patterson versus Escalon last week. Why don't you give us a recap there?
Yeah, I'll be here all a while if I'm going to do play-by-play or score-by-score,
Well,
because this one took forever. 47-34 Patterson over Escalon. That's right, that was the right score. What stood out here is just the athletes over at Patterson. Demario Hammonds, Michael Lawson.
Told ya.
Apollo absolutely did. Demario Hammonds, 5 catches, 126 yards, and 2 scores. He returned a punt, 43 yards for a touchdown, had an interception. Lawson, 13 carries, 202. Damian Paulo just very steady as the quarterback here, trying to distribute the ball.
I like Paulo.
6 of 10 passing for 154 yards and 2 scores. Just very, very steady. Only really threw one ball the whole game that could have been intercepted. But just back and forth. Both teams, Patterson and Escalon, need to improve on defense as they go along the season, which they will. Wesley Dick, the fullback for Escalon, 33 carries, 206 yards, and 2 scores in my game. But again, 47-34 Patterson over Escalon. Wild opener.
33-206, they call that a lunch bucket effort from where I come from.
Lunch bucket effort, yeah, blue-collar guy.
There you go.
Yeah, 200-yard rushers. How about that?
Yeah, I was at Downey High, and Downey jumped out to a 36-27 or 26-7 lead on Pittman, and that was about the high water mark there. Pittman came roaring back and eventually won the game 36-33. Jeremy Pla talked about his team letting down for just a minute in the second half, and they were never able to recapture the momentum after that. But I saw some things that I liked from Pittman, most notably quarterback P.J. Wilson. He was 23 of 44 for 321 yards, 3 TDs, ran for 2 others.
Wow.
And he looked fantastic. And I think he's found a target that he's going to like in Isaiah Larry. He had a big night. But, you know, we may have been sandbagged a little bit by Pittman coach Tom Tyler. He talked about how young they were.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he told our Jim Silva they're going to be a young team. And the rest of the CCC coaches picked them, I think, 5th in that conference. Mm-hmm. And they look like they can play a little bit. You know, they can run. They've got Blake McBay and Quentin Hernandez leading the charge there. And I think they're going to be okay. I think they're going to surprise some folks. But
well, I had the 200-yard rushers in my game, but you wanted to mention another 200-yard rusher.
Yeah, Demetrius Vincent from Grigori High School. He's the kid that went up to the Nike Spark Combine in Oakland back in May and really scored off the charts and became kind of a well-known entity in the recruiting circle. So he's just a junior, and he was making his varsity debut, and he rushed for 226 yards. And I had a chance to go out and talk with Demetrius, and let's listen to what he had to say. Demetrius, last week against Chavez of Stockton, you rushed for 228 yards in your varsity debut. That must have been real exciting for you.
Yeah, it was a good turnout. It's exactly what I expected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you guys lost the game. A little bit of a buzzkill there for you?
Yeah, kind of ruined my mood.
Performance like that right out of the gate, you can do nothing but build your confidence, I guess.
Yeah, I know what I'm capable of, and I can do it again. Like, I hope we could just get some W's.
This week you got series high. What do you expect from the Bulldogs?
I heard they have a pretty good DN, so I'm watching out for him, trying to have some fun with him a little bit. So
I think Series High School is going to have its hands full facing Demetrius Vincent this week.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to clear up a couple of things. I said I went out to Downey High School. I went to see Downey, but that game was played at Turlock High, and of course, P.J. Wilson plays for Pittman. I did it again. Plays for Downey, not Pittman. So
there you go.
Thanks, Beek.
You got it.
Thanks for helping me out there.
Got it.
Hey, what were some of your takeaways from week 1 or week 0?
Well, in addition to the games I covered, the game I covered, there was just a couple scores that just jumped off the page, and we saw them when he came in on Friday.
Right.
First of all, Sierra beating Ripon 54-7. I mean, Nobody saw that coming.
Nobody.
And I had a chance to talk to Chris Johnson to say, hey, what happened? Ripon High coach Chris Johnson. And he said that Sierra High has, and there's the quote here, I wrote it down, the best group of athletes that he's ever seen on one team. Wow.
It says a lot.
It says a lot.
It says a lot.
Well, it also says a lot for the VOL and the depth of that, because we've been talking about
Right.
about Oakdale and Manteca and Central Catholic, and all of a sudden, boom, here's Sierra. And if Sierra is capable of beating Ripon 54-7, ouch.
Yeah.
And here's a Ripon team that's held its own with Central Catholic the last couple of years, so
Right.
we'll see. The other score that jumped out at me from a kind of a different standpoint was that Hillmar-Livingston final. I still don't know what happened, but Hillmar beat Livingston 10-7 in that
Yeah.
game.
It's mystifying.
Livingston led 7-0 at halftime. Hillmar had a touchdown, field goal in the third quarter, and they held on
Right.
to win it. Now, Jonathan O'Brien didn't throw that much in that game for
He
Hillmar.
was 7 of 11 for 100 yards. He did have a pick, which is his first pick
Yeah.
since week 4 of last year, I believe.
Wow. But those were kind of the two things that kind of jumped out at me from last week's results.
Well, one thing I learned today at the quarterback club talking with Tim Garcia, Davis High coach, he had a big performance from Isaiah Millhouse, 203 yards rushing on 19 carries, even had a 60-yarder called back. Could have been a real monster night if that one would have stayed. Also, Johansson. You know, we always talk about Johansson and the limited numbers there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they had a player already injured going into the game, Jose Alvarado. And then their big linebacker fullback, Robert Romero, 5'11", 220, he gets injured in the game. And then they lose another player, Isaiah Ferdine, who was having a big game with 6 tackles in the first quarter. He's got a broken tibia, so he's probably done for the year. Ferdine has an MRI scheduled today, and that's never good. So right there, more numbers troubles for Johansson High School. And then finally, Modesto quarterback Nate Phillips in his varsity debut, 12 of 14 for 214 yards, 2 TDs.
There you go.
And had a 60-yard touchdown, well, what would have been a touchdown, go right through his receiver's fingertips.
Well, let's talk about this week's games and throw out some games to watch and our predictions on them. And first one, Oakdale Turlock. That's kind of an interesting game, but what do you think is going to happen there?
Well, Turlock's coming off a big win against Enoch's, an Enoch team I think pretty highly of. We're going to learn a lot about Turlock very quickly. They've got Oakdale this week. They've got Clovis West next week. Clovis West, of course, one of 2 teams on this planet.
That's right.
To ever beat De La Salle more than once.
That's right.
And they beat Merced last week.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be able to gauge just where Turlock is very quickly. I like Oakdale in this game. Oakdale did what it had to last week against a rival Sonora. They're big, they're physical. I'm picking the best.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Oakdale in this game also. This is traditionally an opener, but now it's a second week of the season with some things switched around with Oakdale Sonora. But I also like Oakdale in this game. Golden Valley against Bayer in a game that's going to be played at Grigori. I'll go with Golden Valley in this game.
I'm going to go with Bayer.
Okay.
I like their 3-headed attack with Trujillo at quarterback and Green at running back and Salfeld at the receiver position. I think they'll be able to move the ball.
Okay. Central Catholic at Atwater. That's a game I'm going to go see Friday night. Opening game for the 2-time defending state bowl champion, going on the road to open it against a team that could push it around a little bit. Atwater's got some physical players. Having said all that, I just like Central Catholic in this game.
I think Central probably has too much skill in this game. I'm going with the Raiders.
Thursday night game, Buhack Colony against Enochs, and that game is going to be at Downey High. What do you like in that game?
I'm going to go with Enochs.
Oh, well, just to be contrarian.
You know, with Colony.
I'll
I like
go
Sean
Buhack.
Munoz.
Yeah.
I'm a big Munoz backer.
Yeah. Another game, Grigori at Ceres. And right off the top, I'll just go Grigori in this one.
I'm going to go Grigori. The Modesto coaching staff says Ceres is a vastly improved team, but I'm going to go with Grigori and Demetrius Vincent and see what he does.
Well, again, if Ceres is very much improved, it'll show up this week in the score. They always say that teams improve the most between the first and second week, and and maybe we'll see if that applies between week 0 and week 1.
Let's hope.
Week 0, I love that. Still confused by that. Patterson at Ripon. Now, this was going to be a huge game. It still is a huge game for both teams. Patterson rolling up all those yards last week against Escalon. Ripon giving up all those yards last week against Sierra. It's at Ripon. Just a really, really interesting game. I don't know. I don't pick against Ripon, so there you go.
Okay, and I'm not going to pick against Patterson this year for a long time. I like the Tigers. I think they've got just way too much talent.
Yeah. The last game on our board here is the Downey-McNair game, which is at Downey. Now, McNair opened up against Calaveras,
right.
and I saw the numbers on this game. McNair...
Madden numbers.
Yeah, McNair allowed 626 yards to Calaveras and won 55-48. They gained
hard to do.
604 yards. Quick math, 1,230 total yards in that game. And they're not going to have a clock.
And they're not going to have a clock.
But this game could go until midnight.
It probably won't matter with Downey and McNair throwing the ball around like they do. McNair's quarterback, Osai Brown, threw for 400 yards and 5 TDs. Their wide receiver, Sean Hamilton, caught 8 balls for 259. And sophomore running back, Austin Sith, as in Sith Lord Darth Vader, ran for 140 yards. So they can attack you a lot of different ways. And but it looks like they like to throw primarily. Downey likes to throw primarily. This game won't be over before 11:15.
And your pick? That's tough. Kind of
I'm going to go with McNair.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with McNair. Downey has some defensive concerns they need to get corrected, and until I see it, I'm going to go with McNair here.
Yeah, for the same reason, I'll go with McNair. If McNair is throwing up that many yards and that many points against Calaveras, we know is physical. Maybe a little young this year at Calaveras, but no, I also like McNair on the fast track there, and yeah, so that's that. Well, I guess that's it for Stanislaus Football Weekly for our second week of production in week 80 or year 84.
Was it 84 or 48? I can't remember.
Yeah, and as a closing, as I tell you to go out and have a great football weekend, I had a chance. I was at the Escalon game last week, and I saw the clouds forming just before sunset, and I'm going, this is going to be a good sunset. So when the sunset finally hit, I got myself in a good position to take a good picture. And as I go out and I tell you to have a great football weekend, look at this pretty picture.
Thanks for joining us this week, and don't forget to check out all of our great content at modb.com. On Tuesday, join Joe Cortez for his weekly chat. Wednesday, we've got Stanislaus Football Weekly, and on Friday, we've got live scoring updates during the game, and then after, join us for our post-game podcast, game videos and interviews, photo galleries, and great stories from our talented group of reporters.